Hello, and welcome to Leader Folk, an inclusive look inside the Jewish community. I'm your host, Sara. This episode is generously sponsored by Dog's Day Out, Minneapolis's new do-it-yourself dog wash and full-serve bathing and grooming salon. I'm so thrilled to welcome our guests this week, Sally Abrams and Holly Farber. Together, they are the co-directors of the Speakers Bureau for the JCRC of Minnesota and the Dakotas, and they are two beloved colleagues of mine who I get to work with in some of the other work that I do outside of Leader Folk. So Sally and Holly, thank you so much for being here today.
It's our pleasure to be here.
Sara.
All right, so it's a little unusual for me to have two guests, but I think it's still just as important to give you an opportunity to introduce yourselves. Let's start with Sally. If you could just tell us a little bit about where you're from and who you are and how you ended up doing the incredible work that you do with the Jewish Community Relations Council.
Oh, thank you. Listen, I'm born and raised and lived my whole life here in the Twin Cities. I'm married 41 years, mother of 4 grown married children, grandma of lots of little children. I came to this work through a really an interesting path. When my kids were little, I went back to college to earn a second degree. I wanted to know the Hebrew language. I don't know what overtook me, but something did, and I really got the bug. And when I started learning, and I was doing the daytime classes with, I was in my 30s, I was there with these 18-year-old kids, and I just loved it. And I caught on quick. And I enjoyed it so much that I took one class after another till I earned a second degree. And then I went on to teach Hebrew for, some 15 years. I taught at the day school. I taught the college and the schools program for Talmud Torah, where the kids get college credit while they're in high school. And opening the door to Hebrew opened many other doors after that. All of the people that became part of my life, the Israelis that became part of my life because somehow connected to Hebrew, that launched travel to Israel. It intensified my connection to Israel. And that led me eventually to want to be a volunteer speaker for the JCRC Speakers Bureau, doing the presentations on Israel, doing presentations on Judaism. And Holly and I had just great chemistry right from the start, and eventually it led to us working together as colleagues at the JCRC, and that's been for many years now of doing this wonderful shared work of education in schools and churches and civic groups to teach people about Judaism and Israel and some combination of the two. But really what opened the door was wanting to learn the Hebrew language, and when you open one door, it takes you on a pathway that opens many other doors.
And what was your first degree in, Sally?
Oh, my first degree was in nutrition science many years ago. And I worked in that field for, probably 15 years or so. And then was ready to move on to something else that, and this just captured both my mind and my heart.
What a pivot. I love it.
Well, actually, there's a lot of similarity because in both cases, it was about taking something complicated and trying to help someone understand it. The teaching aspect was woven throughout.
I think it's such a credit to any individual who kind of goes through different seasons of life and different passions to find that through line. That's something that I'm kind of discovering as I start entering my later 20s, and I'm like, how do all these passions connect? So I appreciate you saying that.
Thank you.
Holly, tell us about yourself.
So Sally and I actually went to the same high school. We went to Highland High School in St. Paul a few years apart, and I was born and raised in just a loving and warm Jewish home and community, and we had many Israelis stay with us throughout the years of my childhood, and I hosted Israelis, and I was connected to Israel, and I studied in undergraduate. I studied the history and political science with an emphasis in the Middle East, and then I split a year between Israel and Chicago and went to law school and came out of law school and didn't think about, professional work in the Jewish community at all. So I had years of my law career and got pregnant with twins And that changed things. And so I decided to be a full-time parent, or almost a full-time parent. I did a little bit of work. And when my twin boys went off to kindergarten, I was looking for a job, and I actually applied for a job at the JCRC in kind of an unusual way, and did not get that job. But the then executive director, Steve Silberfarb, and I had a good connection. And when a person by the name of Steve Lear, who's a financial planner in Minneapolis, came to the executive director of JCRC with this idea of building a speakers bureau, there was nothing like it anywhere in the country. There still isn't anything like it anywhere in the country. Most JCRCs are reactive to the community. So if somebody calls and says, we're looking for a speaker about Judaism or Israel, they'll send somebody out. But we decided to be proactive and generate speaking opportunities and create a whole vibrant group of volunteers. And our goal was to do 50 presentations, then 100, then 150. And at that point, I was maxed out, and Sally came on board, and now we do 400 or 500 presentations a year. There's nothing like there's no speakers bureau anywhere in the English speaking world that we're aware of that does the volume of speaking engagements that we do. So I took this job because it seemed like an interesting challenge. I had never done anything like it. And I had the chance to be in the building phase and the visioning phase of something that sounded like it could be great. And decided that if it was a fail, I would thank everyone at the JCRC for the opportunity and move on to something else. But it turned out to be a wonderful success. And in this job, both Sally and I have been able to explore other passions. Sally with tremendous blogging, especially for the Times of Israel, me with interfaith work, and both of us doing development work for the JCRC. So we've really grown and expanded, but the core of our work is the speaking that we do, and we have an incredible group of community volunteers that we do it with, including among them my sister and my mom. And so it's just, and also all of my kids were volunteer speakers as they grew up, and now they're in their 20s. So I've been doing this work. This is my high year, my 18th year of doing this work. And it's never the same presentation twice. That's for sure.
Wow. Mazel tov on your high year.
Thank you.
Amazing. So, will one of you dive a little deeper into what specifically the Speakers Bureau does, what you present on, and the value of what you're providing through the program?
So what we present on is what the people who invite us want us to present on in the large categories. We also now actually work very closely with our colleagues at the JCRC, Laura Zell and Susie Greenberg, who run the Holocaust speaking. So we work with teachers and community groups from adults down to middle schoolers in the large categories of Judaism, Israel, and the Holocaust. So if you're a social studies teacher and you have a world religions curriculum, you'd probably invite us to do Judaism on one foot. Sally, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, we speak also to many high school classes that are doing world geography or some aspect of learning about the Middle East. And then we will bring them our Israel and the Middle East, the Challenge of Peace presentation to help them get really a mainstream perspective on why Israel matters to Jews, some basics of the history. And we also try and really are intentional about broadening the conversation so that Israel is more than a story of conflict. We want them to have a sense of the vibrancy of the place, of the culture, of its, being just this humming, multi-ethnic, fabulous place. When we tell people, young people, you would love to visit there because it would be so much fun for you. That's often that's not what they don't know enough yet to know. They don't think of it as, they don't think of the adjective fun. They're just, busy thinking about geopolitics. So we bring that as well to students in high schools. We've done it for community education programs. We've gone to lots of churches too, where their interest in the topic is really deep, and it's something that we share with them.
And we've also in lots of interfaith settings. And I guess this is a good segue to the work that we've done with you, Sara, which is our most recent project, yes. Which is to grapple with the complex topic of Israel and Palestine, especially through Letters to My Palestinian Neighbor, with an extensive epilogue of Palestinian responses by author Yossi Klein Halevi, and our project of asking people to read this book, have these conversations, and write letters in response to the book. So we want to create a space for real deep conversation, spoken from the truths of the perspectives of the people that are joining in on this conversation. And that's been really exciting. And that was something that we built just in the time of the pandemic.
Yeah, we saw an opportunity when so much was being shut down. We thought, let's bring this to our community youth. We think that the book is really, in this moment, it is the vehicle to help young people, middle-aged people, any people, Jew, non-Jew, develop a sophisticated and multifaceted perspective on a complicated topic, because the second edition of the book, the one that has the extensive epilogue of Palestinian responses, enables the reader in a short, quickly read book to come face to face with two narratives and all of the complexity that's built into that. And so we did 2 beta tests of this project over the summer to try it out. And the projects conclude with writing a letter from your own. You can write it from your own perspective. You can use the imagined perspective of an Israeli or Palestinian. A short letter, 500 to 700 words, offering insight into what you took from the book. Really, we're quite open on what that letter can be. And then the 2 beta tests both concluded with a Zoom conversation to bring the people that participated into a conversation with each other, to which we invited Yossi Klein Halevi, and to our enormous satisfaction, we're so thrilled. He's a total partner in this work. He was the first one on the Zoom call, the last one to leave, and engaged so personally with every person on the call, framing what is a 21st century conversation on this topic in a way that I don't think anyone will forget. One of the tells for me that the whole thing was landing was not one person left the call before it was over. And in the time of Zoom, that's kind of unusual. We have a very generous anonymous funder, community funder, that's dedicated to this project, is funding the cost of the books and the prizes and the staff time to run the project, and has committed to doing it for 3 years. So our big rollout was September 1st. And I have to say, because you won't say it, so I'm going to say it. We could not have done this anyway without what you have given us in terms of graphic design and social media marketing and all of that. You enabled the project to look as good as it is, to look professional and attractive and appealing. And so now we're running simultaneously 3 contests with a contest period of September 1 to December 1. We'll take entries till December 1. 3 age groups: a high school 14 to 18 age group, an 18 to 22 age group, and a 22 to 42 age group. And each group will be judged separately. There'll be a $360 prize for the best overall in each group, and $180 for most creative and $180 for most insightful in each group. And JCRC will either provide the book or will reimburse the cost of the book if a receipt is submitted along with a letter. And we're looking forward to our Zoom conversations in December when it concludes. And thanks to you and to Sammy and to others at the JCRC, we have a fabulous landing page so people can go get information, writing prompts, and submission portal. And it's so streamlined. Holly, do you want to add to this?
Well, I think that taking it at a little bit of a higher level, what's exciting about now is that geography doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. And we've tried to use that to strengthen our work as speakers, because actually tomorrow morning I'm going to be teaching in a rural classroom about 3 hours from here, and I'm going to be clicking in on a Google Meet or a Zoom. So we do the same thing with the Letters Project, mm-hmm. and with our other work, we're able to come together. When Yossi Klein Halevi came to our Zoom conversations, he was sitting in his living room in Jerusalem, mm-hmm. and it was incredible. So as much as this is a very difficult time and a time of paradigm shift, almost total paradigm shift, there are things about it that I think are opportunities. And I actually just gave a talk to an interfaith group, and they were asking about religion and nonviolence. And one of the things that I said that I didn't hear any other religion talk about was the value of true conversation, argumentation, like the house of Beit Hillel and Beit Shammai, how we understand that we need to challenge one another for the sake of heaven. And that we know, like when our temple was destroyed, we could have disappeared, but we decided to take what was great about what we had and bring it into the new reality of the future. I mean, we are rabbinic Jews, right? If you went back to the time of the temple, I mean, half of the mitzvot of the Torah have to do with obligations specifically relating to the temple. And when the temple was destroyed, there were these insightful Jews, and I commend Rabbi B'nai Lappy's crash talk on this topic, which was an inspiration for me in talking about the idea of nonviolence, that we were able to reinvent ourselves, but very true to our core values and our core traditions, but not to try to force them to be in a place that didn't work anymore. So I think maybe our pivot in this time was informed by the magnificent Jews of history who have pivoted so many times and in so many places, that a pivot in some ways feels, I guess, organic.
The project is really amazing, and Sally, I want to thank you for your very kind words. It is an honor to be collaborating with you both and with the JCRC on this project.
So, Sara, I will interrupt you to say that I adopt all of Sally's words. Without your help, Sara, and without your vision and your skill, it would not be what it is. So it was from both of us.
Totally. Thank you so much. We're going to talk more about the partnership after a word from Dog's Day Out. This podcast is sponsored by Downtown Dogs Daycare and Boarding, where furry family members play and stay by the hour, day, week, or longer, and Dog's Day Out, featuring 7 socially distanced dog bathtubs and the Zen Den for Shire pups. Located near the Minneapolis Farmers Market, we offer curbside fetch and retrieve upon request. All breeds, sizes, and ages welcome. Visit us at dtdogs.com and dogsdaympls.com. I really am grateful for both of you, not only for your open collaboration on this and generous approach, but also because I feel like this project, as you've both described so eloquently, really does have the power to engage young people on this very complex topic in a really productive and inspiring and also creative way, and gives them such a variety of ways into grappling with this very difficult conversation. And so I just think I couldn't be more excited to be participating in it.
So I will correct you on only one score, Sarah, which is that it should not only be for young people, it should be for all people. So our next age group there's going to be no upper limit to it.
Yeah.
Because
we're
running 3 contests now, but we're going to run another contest, and we will be working with Shalom Home. So we'll be working with seniors in high school and seniors in
in
seniors
life.
and citizens. Yes. So we and it is great to inform or to inspire young people. But it's also great to be a lifelong learner. And so we are going to be approaching those groups as well.
Thanks for that. I'm glad you added that.
Yeah.
Another thing about this project that has really resonated with me is that I've gotten to know you both through working on that project, and I feel like you're such incredible role models of this female partnership in work. And I would love for you to, maybe Holly, we'll start with you this time, if you could just talk about what this partnership means to you, how it's developed, how you manage it, and if it's as magical inside as it seems on the outside.
Sally and I, we see a lot of things differently from one another, which is part of our strengths. We have such a profound respect for each other that we're able, and I think 1 × 1 equals, 10 or something like that. Because we're able in a short amount of time to almost have the evolution of like a committee perspective on a way to move forward. So we kind of rough things out together. And the two of us are both extraordinarily, I think, hard workers, and probably because we have life experience under our belts. I have 3 kids in their 20s. Sally's got 4 kids. We've both been, in long-term marriages and families, and the many beautiful things that life has to offer are on both of our plates. So when we're in work mode, we are both pulling really hard in the same direction, and we get a lot done. We virtually high five each other at least on a weekly basis. And we have brought in really important professionals. We know what we don't know, and we are so grateful for people who are able to round out our skills.
We are fortunate in both being self-starters, which is essential in this particular job because we work as independent contractors for JCRC and always have. Even before the pandemic, we don't work from the office. We both work from home, and until the pandemic, so much of the time we were out in the field, at schools and at civic groups and at other places, and working with our volunteers. It was all set outside the parameters of showing up in an office. And to be a self-starter and to work with someone in a partnership, it's never going to work if one's the self-starter and the other isn't, because the workload will always be lopsided. In our case, it's exactly what Holly said. We're both pulling together and pulling so hard and able to accomplish so much because we are able to work independently without anybody, nobody's checking on us. We have our own mechanisms for keeping track of our work and assessing our work and making sure we're on track with our work. We're in communication with each other all day long, by phone, by text, by FaceTime. And I think we've learned to appreciate so much the strengths that the other brings and to utilize the skill sets. We have many of the same skills, but Holly has some skills that I don't have. And maybe I have a couple that she doesn't have. And so it's definitely a case of 1 + 1 is more than 2 because we just maximize what we've got. In terms of, how one spouse will often say about the other spouse that this person is my better half. I feel like in my work life, Holly's my better half. I say it all the time. I could not do it without her. no way could I do this work alone.
I agree. I agree. I mean, we do. We each complement each other, and we're part time together. We're not even an FTA. We're independent contractors, so we're not even. So we are part time, and it is very much, as you know, Sara. We enjoy it, and our hearts and minds and souls are deeply engaged by it. And we have the room to follow our individual passions. And that's really exciting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I have to say, I had no idea that neither of you were full-time, and I am absolutely staggered by how much you do as part-time.
Yeah,
we are part-time. We are part-time.
Together it adds up to about one full-time equivalent, but
right, except for not all year. Yes, like slightly less because we're not all year long either. But that's why sometimes you'll hear something going on in the background, because it's often me also, emptying my dishwasher when I'm on the conference.
But it's a labor of love.
We're juggling. We have big lives, big work lives, and big lives outside of work, and so that makes it fun.
I'm also, Sara, at an age where it would be easy to explain, saying I'm done, I'm done working, but it's the last thing I want, because I find it so meaningful and so satisfying. And I'm also modeling that, I hope, for my kids and my grandchildren, that, there's important things to do at every stage of life, and get out there and do them. And this time is no exception. I'm in my early 60s, and I feel really blessed to have this work waiting for me every day. It's a labor of love, and it's a real blessing to be able to do it.
Yes, definitely. I would love to give each of you an opportunity, if there's any other project that you're working on, or any other thing that's top of mind for you that you'd like to share about. I'd love to kind of just open the floor.
So one thing that we're doing, or I'm feeling passionate about, is our interfaith youth group work, and that is in partnership with Farber Hassan, who's Muslim clergy at Augsburg University. She's my co-director, and it's an exciting time to be really deeply engaging with interfaith youth, and also through the Minnesota Multi-Faith Network. I'm in partnership with the Islamic Resource Group and a Christian colleague, and together we have launched a program through police officer standards and training to educate police officers about interfaith, about people of different faiths and sort of the practical things that officers might need to know when engaging in communities of faiths with which they are unfamiliar. So those are new and exciting things that we have going on right now. And we've also got a very big and robust program of Zoom teaching all over the state and North and South Dakota. The JCRC serves not just Minnesota and North and South Dakota. So we are out there marketing to all over the states of Minnesota and North and South Dakota. And Sally can talk a little bit more about that. And another thing I guess I do want to say is also this incredible work that our whole community, our whole Jewish community in the Twin Cities did through the Grinspoon Foundation, called It's Your Legacy. And it was a real community conversation about legacy giving, which is what we think of as planting seeds now that will bear fruit in the future. It's about sustaining the community for the long term. Of course, it's critically important to pay today's bills, but it's also really important to vision for the future. And so Sally and I staffed that project, and we were, and it was something neither of us had ever done before. And we were very gratified to have been acknowledged for our success and how much we learned through the project and how big of an impact we made on the future of our community, really millions and millions of dollars. So that was extremely exciting and gratifying. And if anyone's interested in learning more about how to be a legacy donor, you don't have to be wealthy, and you don't have to be of any certain age. It's really a program for everybody. And it was something that we felt the rising tide lifts all boats. And we were very happy to be connected with the Jewish agencies and synagogues in town who all came together to do this work. It was a wonderful experience, and it will make an impact for the future of the next several generations. Such a positive impact in strengthening the future of the community.
I'll just say a few words about the Zoom teaching that we're doing, and in particular, the outreach that we're doing to schools and civic organizations outside of the Twin Cities. You know, up until the pandemic, our radius was maybe an hour and a half around the Twin Cities. But now that everybody's, doing remote learning, it opens up possibilities for us to reach all across Minnesota and all across the Dakotas, and to acquaint people with Jews and Judaism and topics related to Israel in a way that we never would have been, screen to screen, face to face with them otherwise. Just last week, I did a Zoom teaching with a woman who's in a seminary program in a small town way up somewhere in North Dakota, and she was looking to learn about Judaism as part of her a project a requirement she needed to complete for class. So, she reached out to the JCRC just thinking, maybe we'd point her in the right direction. And what the result was an hour-long conversation that we had face to face that, I could see the impact that it had on her. But based on the things she said and the kinds of questions she asked, she said, "What can I do to thank you?" I said, "Tell your friends, because we'll do this with individuals, with classes, and we have speakers waiting in the wings to jump in." So that would be my kind of call to action to those who are listening. It takes often a lot of hands to open up doors. And so if you have connections in a school, in a business, especially across Minnesota and the Dakotas, where you think they would be interested in this kind of learning, which is always free and always tailored to meet their timetable and their interests, then please help us connect with each other. And likewise, with our Letters Project, you can find more information on the homepage of the JCRC. There's a link right there that you helped us to set up, and encourage anybody within, at least right now, the age groups we're working with from 14 to 42 to avail themselves of the opportunity to learn and grow and deepen their ability to grapple with a complex topic and be able to get their arms around it in a multifaceted way. We welcome, and any and all participants, just as long as they're inside the age category, Jewish, not Jewish, live around here, don't live around here. The online portal is a click away for anybody.
Fabulous. Well, thank you both so much for joining me today for this episode of Leader Folk. And we'll put all the information about the JCRC and the Letters Project in the show notes so that our listeners can connect and participate and read and respond. And again, just thank you so much for making yourselves available and for coming on to talk.
That was our
pleasure.
Thank you, Sara. Thank you for inviting us.
Leader Folk is all about elevating voices and starting conversations. So now we'd love to hear from you. Email us at podcast@tcjewfolk.com to share your thoughts, your ideas, or to nominate future guests. Leader Folk is a project of Jew Folk Inc. and the Jew Folk Podcast Network. For more information, visit tcjewfolk.com/podcast. Thank you again to our generous sponsor, Dog's Day Out, Minneapolis' new do-it-yourself dog wash and full-serve bathing and grooming salon. Shabbat Shalom.